Go to a different story. Kenya gets ready for paperless census. You saw yesterday the cabinet secretary in charge of national treasury and planning saying that it will be using, it expects to have 135,000 enumerators. That is on page 9 of the standard. 135,000 enumerators, 27,000 content supervisors, 2,700 ICT supervisors alongside village elders and security personnel. Of course, they are saying that this time round, the census will be done digitally at a cost of 18.5 billion shillings. I don't know what you make of this plan to enumerate Kenyans.
First of all, I'd like to say that census is the one single most important activity in this country, because through census we discuss population and we get to know how the different parts of this country are populated. We know that with the Constitution of 2010, when there was boundaries review, the one single most most of the focus was on population.
Right.
Okay. Initially, the old constitution looked at different parameters, almost 8 different parameters, to be considered when boundaries were being reviewed. But when we passed the 2010 constitution, it was streamlined to population, and therefore, through population, we get to be able to determine how the constituencies are drawn in this country.
Right.
We also get to determine how the resources of this country are shared, and therefore, census therefore becomes a really important activity. So for me, if this is the way that we are going to get accuracy in the census that's coming, I would support it.
Right.
But again, coming from the election that we just had, and we had issues with the electronic counting.
Transmission of results.
Transmission of results. I have a problem that, I have a worry that, is it going to be foolproof? Are the figures that are going to come out, will they really be the correct figures? So I would support it if it's going to give us accurate figures, because population or census determines so many other things that happens in this country.
Right.
So I would just suggest that if that's the way we are choosing to go, we must seal all loopholes so that nobody can tamper with the results of that census to increase or decrease population of a certain area in this country.
And that has always been the challenge, even in previous censuses that have been held in this country, including 2009, where there are people who felt that certain regions were inflating the numbers, or some areas were disadvantaged in the kind of enumeration that was being done. So at a cost of 18.5 billion shillings, surely we cannot afford to get it wrong. So what must we do to ensure that whatever data we collect is correct and has no errors?
You see, some actually starting from there now, what happened in 2009, and subsequently, what has been the cumulative effect up to now in 2019. And remember, in 2009, the then Minister for Planning, the current governor for Kakamega, headed to court as a government minister to challenge the results himself, and he wanted to get orders to go and have a repeat census in some of the sections of this country, because he believed, which correctly he did, and which is so, that those figures that were not accurate would lead to a lot of disparity and fairness, knowing that then in the following year, 2010, we were going to be promulgating that constitution, and as Mheshimiwa Rosa says, which gives population the heaviest or the biggest weight in how resources are shared in this country. And then that cumulative effect as of today has been that you find some areas, for example, I've used severally the example of the area of Mount Kenya region, which have been very disadvantaged. Because, for example, I can tell you, even in the sharing of revenue that was done last year, the population that was used for Kiambu, for example, was 1.6 million. In Kiambu now, according to the UN statistics, we are about 3.1 million people. Yes. And so you ask yourself, how can you then get fairness? And what we have to say all over is this should not be misconstrued. I remember there was a small clip that was doing rounds in social media where a section of leaders from this country called a press conference to protest that there is a call for And I'm the one who used that word, a credible census. Because, and it should be understood that having a credible census will assist every section, every part of this country. Because when it is known that we are 3 million, that you are 5 million, that you are 100,000, then all other aspects will be addressing or will be addressed exactly knowing who is where. And that is why I believe that if there is one thing that government has got to get right this time, for the next 10 years, it has got to be this census. You asked, what should we do? What we should do is very simple. Ensure that we have put in place, and especially with all those resources of 18 billion, a system that is, we would not say foolproof, but it has got to be close to that. And we don't want to go to the issues of the challenges of the elections, as Rosa says, because, you know, we had a lot of issues which were contested in a court of law competently. Right. And a determination was made as to how things went and should have been. But if there should be any doubt, and I would request actually government, and especially the president, to ensure that he has given enough power to the Bureau of Statistics and every other organ that is required to carry out this exercise, that in view of what happened, if you find one area where there is contestation, let us have a credible way of ensuring that the results will be gotten as they are. We can't afford to get this one wrong.
Okay, Senator Harwale, the census will focus on 8 areas, and these are population characteristics, disability, education, labor force, ICT, agriculture, housing conditions and amenities, as well as household assets. I'm just wondering, why would anybody want to give a wrong impression of a population, let's say in your county, in Kakamega? Why would anyone want to give a wrong impression about Kakamega County?
It is because of what Senator Matangi has said, that shareable revenue has a formula. And that formula, the weighting on population is the biggest. It's 40%.
It's 45.
45%.
Sorry, 45%. So a mischievous person would like a situation whereby you inflate the population so that the money going to that particular county is more than what they deserve. Allow me to speak to what the director, Sagaria Mwangi, has told us. He's trying to get Kenyans to buy into the paperless census. That's not going to be enough. They must tell us exactly what that gadget will be doing. Because in a computer, the basic of computer is that garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So if garbage will be fed into the computer and then it is transmitted centrally, that garbage will be taken to be foolproof.
So we need some more awareness.
We want to be told what that gadget is doing. Is it attempting to do some element of biometrics? Because if it is not, there's nothing that is going to stop an enumerator in Isiolo from sitting and keep on feeding and feeding that this house has got 12 children, when in effect they have got only 2 children. It's very important that they tell us what the gadget is going to be doing. Otherwise,
the process.
Otherwise, the paperless, so-called paperless census might end up being more disastrous
than what we had.
But in terms of the amount, 18 billion, I think 18 billion is not too much to invest in such an important exercise that affects so many aspects of our lives. And if it's done right, it's going to be with us for the next 5 years. So I would not be so concerned about the amount that we are putting in. My concern would be on the impact and the accuracy and effectiveness of the exercise as opposed to the amount.
Right.
If it comes out accurate, then it is worth the 18 billion, because we're with it for 5 years and it affects all aspects of our lives.
Actually 10.
In terms of 10 years actually. Yes. 10 years, because we have census after 10 years. And it determines key aspects of the lives of every Kenyan.
I just wanted to add, because it's very, very important in light of what Senator Halwala was saying, that there has to be credibility. And one of the aspects, one of the areas that one can look at, Sam, is this. There has to be, for example, a correlation between what is the number, for example, of registered voters, the voters who sent Rosa to Parliament, and the population. There has to be some symmetrical semblance. And you'd be saying it's not okay when you say that I was voted in by 10,000 people and you're saying my population is 1 million. It doesn't make sense.
No, it could be that you started...
I mean, that's why I used the word semblance, and I said, and I said, you know, some symmetrical semblance of sorts, such that you can see a trend. Yeah, I mean, some it cannot be such that that in my county where we have 12 sub-counties, that indeed that you find everybody has then this likelihood that only 10% of the population will turn out to vote. Right. I mean, there has to be some relation. That's what I'm saying. So if you want to know why there's cheating, you would be asking, how is this man elected? How did he come to parliament if he's a governor or maybe a senator?
So maybe we need more analysis.
And then would,
you could have discovered many things late in life, so all your children are like under 10, and voting can only be done by people over 18.
But it cannot be in a whole county, you know. It cannot be in an area.
Good point. Senator Kimano Matangi, Senator, are you emeritus? Or you still have a...
No, he's,
but am I allowed to say this, that Senator Halwale has disappointed us in this debate because he's chosen to keep quiet? Is it that when you go follow Tanga Tanga, you're muffled? Because I was looking forward to really having a good debate with you.
No, I mean,
yeah, you're not yourself.
What did you want me to do?
You're not vibrant.
I mean, you may not have said something she wanted you to say.
No.
All right, so Senator Halwale, Senator Matangi, sorry, my apologies, and Mheshimiwa Rosa Boyo, thank you so much for making time for us. Up next will be Morning Oliver Mtukudzi. I don't know whether you guys interacted with him or his music. We'll be talking to Susanna Uwe about that. Did anyone interact with him?
I did. I was in Zimbabwe and attended one of his shows, and he was a brilliant performer. And his voice, and I love his music.
Could have had some Luya roots because
Luo.
I mean, because not because of the performance, is the name, you know, the pronunciation. Then Halwale would speak up, but I think he's
even now. Halwale is not commenting. Halwale, come back home.
The people
come back home.
The people in Zimbabwe, the people in Zimbabwe are Bantus, and that's why it is not surprising that some of the names you see there will have a touch of Meru, Kamba, Luya, and so on.
Okay.
And Kikuyu. But Kikuyu suffer from poverty of names.
What do you mean? actually, the community with the most creativity in giving out names is actually the Kikuyu community. I mean, we give names over so many aspects, from animals to events to inheritance.